You are there, sitting at your desk, gazing at the computer screen, another day like the one before. Same routine, same fears, same excuses, and you convince yourself that this is freedom because you can choose between Netflix or Amazon Prime, between one job or another, between one person or another. But Sartre already warned us, the most dangerous prison is the one you call home. You live within an invisible script you call freedom, but in reality, it's a system of internal control rooted in fear, validation, and the avoidance of responsibility. Your mind has been programmed to believe you are in control while acting as a puppet to social expectations, internal fears, and approval needs that you don't even recognize as external influences. Here, you will understand why your life is not truly yours yet, and how existential philosophy might be the key you've always had, but never dared to use. If this has ever happened to you, comment below. And if this video reminds you of someone who needs to hear a hard truth, share it now. They will understand. You think you are free, but every day you behave as if you are being controlled. This is the most brutal contradiction of your existence. You wake up at the same time, follow the same route, respond the same way to the same stimuli, and call it an authentic life. But what you're really living is an automated program disguised as conscious choice. The most dangerous prison is the one you're unaware you're living in. You move within invisible walls built by social expectations, internal fears, and a desperate need for acceptance. The modern system offers options without allowing awareness. Do you choose or do you consume? You can choose among 1,000 soda brands, but you don't question whether you need to drink soda. You can choose from 1,000 profiles to follow, but you don't question whether you need to live through others. You can choose from 1,000 distractions, but you don't question whether you need to distract yourself from your own life. Every decision you believe you've made freely was, in fact, a programmed reaction to external pressures you internalized as your own desires. You don't choose, you obey. And you call this obedience freedom because it comes with the illusion that it could have been different. But could it really? When was the last time you did something you truly wanted, regardless of what others might think, what would be considered proper, or what would guarantee your emotional security? You live as a character in your own life, following a script written by others but pretending to be the author. Sartre would say, "You live as a character, not as an author. That is your prison." And the worst part is that you defend the bars as if they were jewels. Jean-Paul Sartre dedicated his life to exposing this comfortable lie we call modern existence. For him, human beings are condemned to be free, but they prefer to live in bad faith, the sophisticated self-deception of pretending they have no choice. Bad faith is when you convince yourself that your circumstances define who you are, when in reality, you are the one shaping your circumstances through the choices you make every second. Sartre demonstrated that pretending you had no choice is the first sign of mental imprisonment. You say you need to keep this job that destroys you because you have bills to pay. You say you can't take a stand because you might lose friends. You say you can't change because your family wouldn't understand. But these are choices. You choose financial security over authenticity. You choose to be loved for a false version of yourself rather than respected for your true self. You choose the familiar comfort over genuine uncertainty. And then you convince yourself that you had no choice. That is bad faith. It's lying to yourself to avoid facing the crushing weight of true freedom. Because true freedom is not doing whatever you want. It is taking full responsibility for who you are, what you feel, and what you choose. And that is terrifying. It's easier to be a victim of circumstances than to be the architect of your own destiny. Sartre said that we are condemned to be free because we did not ask to exist. But once here, every second of our existence is a choice. Even not choosing is a choice. Even surrendering is a choice. And you fear this complete responsibility. You created a narrative where you are a victim of circumstances so as not to take responsibility for being the author of your own choices. And this narrative becomes your identity. You are no longer the man who could choose differently. You are the man who has no choice, I know a man who has been working for 15 years in the same job that drains him from the inside out. He comes home exhausted every day, frustrated, talking about how much he hates what he does. But when asked why he doesn't change, he has a prepared list of excuses: age, the necessary experience in other fields, the stability it provides his family, the tough job market. He has convinced himself that he has no choice, that he is trapped by circumstances beyond his control. But the truth is that he chooses familiar imprisonment because he's afraid of the unknown freedom. He opts for the security of complaint instead of the risk of transformation. And what's most interesting is how he defends his captivity. He speaks of responsibility, maturity, realism, as if accepting a life that kills him inside were a virtue, as if the courage to change was irresponsibility. Sartre would call this bad faith in its purest form. He created a narrative where he is a victim of circumstances to avoid admitting he is the author of his own choices. And this narrative becomes his identity. He is no longer the man who could choose differently. He is the man with no choice. And that comforts him because it removes the terrifying responsibility of being free. But this comfort is a lie. Deep down, he knows he's wasting the only life he has. And this subconscious awareness devours him more than any change ever could. This man represents millions of others who have chosen to live in fear of taking a stand, living to please, depending on the validation of others, following the right path to be accepted, and calling it freedom. If any part of this video has made you reflect, mark this moment in the comments. That's where change begins. And if what I've said makes sense so far, leave a like, not for me, but for yourself. The micro prisons of everyday life are the most dangerous because they are invisible. You live in fear of taking a stand because you might displease someone. You live to please people who don't even respect your opinions. You depend on others' validation to feel valuable. You follow the right path to be accepted and call it freedom. But this is the most sophisticated prison of all: social imprisonment disguised as personal choice. You have internalized others' expectations as if they were your own desires. You want what they want you to want. You fear what they want you to fear. You aspire to what they consider worthy of aspiration. And you call that authenticity. Sartre would say you have become an object in the world of others rather than the subject of your own existence. You react instead of acting. You respond instead of initiating. You adapt instead of creating. And the modern system makes this imprisonment easier by offering the illusion of choice. True freedom would be questioning the very questions themselves. It would be creating your own references rather than choosing among the ones others have crafted for you. Genuine freedom is not comfort. Freedom is complete responsibility for who you are, what you feel, and what you choose. This perception destroys you before it sets you free. Because when you realize that your life is not truly yours yet, something fundamental breaks inside you. But I know another man who made a decision that everyone around him called madness. He had a thriving business, a settled routine, a social status that many envied. Yet one day he woke up and realized he was living the life others expected of him, not the life he truly wanted to live. And he made a radical choice. He sold everything and started over from scratch in a completely different field. His friends said he was going through a crisis. His family said he was being irresponsible. But he understood something Sartre tried to teach: that true freedom begins when you stop asking for permission to be who you are. He took full responsibility for his life. He didn't blame anyone for what he had become. He didn't use circumstances as an excuse not to change. He simply recognized that he had chosen a comfortable prison and decided to choose uncertain freedom. And the interesting part is that he didn't become happier immediately. In fact, he became more anxious, more insecure, more questioned by everyone around him. But he became more authentic, more free, more responsible for his own existence. Sartre would say that he stopped living in bad faith. He stopped pretending he had no choice and took on the overwhelming weight of complete freedom. And this transformed him not into a happier person, but into a more genuine one. more connected with his own essential freedom. He understood that true awakening is realizing that your life is not truly yours yet. And from that realization, you can begin to create your own path, but only if you have the courage to break free from the original programming. According to Sartre, freedom is a burden that almost no one wants to bear. When you finally realize that your life is not truly yours yet, that you've been living as a product of others' expectations, that every significant decision was made out of fear of rejection or failure, something inside you dies. The version of yourself that believed it was free perishes, and it hurts. It hurts to recognize that you've wasted years living as a character. It hurts to admit that you chose imprisonment because it was easier than embracing freedom. It hurts to accept that you're afraid of truly being free because freedom demands that you create your own values, your own meanings, your own criteria for success. But it is precisely this destruction that makes genuine creation possible. It means stopping living for approval. It means establishing your own standards of value. It means accepting that some people will reject you when you stop being who they want you to be. It means taking full responsibility for your emotions, your reactions, your choices. It means ceasing to blame circumstances, others, or the past for what you've become. It means recognizing that you are, at every moment, the author of your own existence. And that is simultaneously liberating and terrifying. True imprisonment is not physical. It is mental, social, emotional, cultural, and always disguised as freedom. You are confined, but the lock is inside you. Only you can turn it. Sartre would say that freedom is waiting for you, but it won't come to you. You must decide to break out of the invisible cell where you've hidden. That cell is made of fear, the need for approval, and an escape from taking full responsibility for your life. And you keep it because it offers the illusion of security. But security is premature death. It is living as a shadow of who you could be. The choice is yours. It has always been yours. It always will be yours. Now tell me, are you still going to pretend you have no choice, or have you finally understood that imprisonment has always been voluntary? Write this down. It's your contract of rupture. And if you want to keep hearing truths that no one else dares to tell you, subscribe. Here, illusions cannot survive.